40,000 people commit suicide in America every year. 1,300 right here in Michigan. Why is that? Let's talk about it. Welcome to My Healthy Mind. I'm your host, Michael Hunter, and this is my co-host, Elizabeth Atkins.
Welcome.
This is a show where we celebrate triumphs. We're talking to real people about real problems. Elizabeth, on My Healthy Mind, we have an opportunity to bring things to the forefront that have traditionally been taboo, yes, off limits, topics that people have not been willing to discuss openly, and we have a forum for them to talk about it.
Yes, it's so exciting to be part of this because we are talking about mental illness, we are talking about addiction, we're talking about health problems that have traditionally had a huge stigma, such as obesity or eating disorders. And here we're offering a safe forum for people to come to talk about problems, real people triumphing over these problems and being inspired to serve as an inspiration to others.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you used the word triumph.
Yes.
Because these are stories where people are telling us what they did to overcome whatever the tragedy was, whatever the illness was, so that they can help others to heal.
Yes, and our first guest, when you say tragedy, our first guest experienced one of the worst tragedies that a parent can experience, and now he's on a mission to spare others from that pain by empowering them with information and resources that can prevent crises and tragedy from occurring.
And his story is so compelling because he has used that information to catapult him to where he is today.
Yes.
And when you talk about tragedy in the family, I really feel his pain because my family had its own bout with dealing with mental illness.
Oh, I'm sorry. What happened?
Well, I have a nephew that went through some mental illness problems, and we didn't handle it in the best way at that time.
Well, Michael, I'm so proud of you for being willing to share that story, and we get to hear Michael's compelling story after the commercial break.
One more hour burns, so scared of his return that I can't sleep tonight. In this hospital life.
We have 3 beautiful children, and everything you do or say to me, they take pictures with their minds, and I want to put a stop to that.
Sometimes I have thoughts of killing you. You know that?
Go ahead. You're doing me a favor.
Alex was the only one that knew the secrets.
Boy, why don't you leave that girl alone for you mess around and get her pregnant?
Why do you have so many boyfriends?
They all treat me nice.
When they ever treated you to anything? Only time they come around here is when they want one thing.
No! No!
You eat so damn much, why can't you choke on something? You're just a fat, disgusting excuse for a kid, and I ought to smack you!
I should have died instead. They were right.
No, you have. Life is worth living.
I have every type of abuse in there.
Yeah. Verbal, physical, sexual, mental.
You name it, it's in that room. You see, after years of abuse, you lose yourself.
Miss Vivica. Miss Vivica.
Cause this time, it's the last time. I know that my eyes have seen too much. This nightmare is not fair, and I've had enough. You break me. Did you say you're sorry? You call this love, but this time your lies are not enough. This time.
I know you've been through some hell and high water, but I see a turnaround right now. You will be silent no more.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery. Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. Michael, you were about to tell us about your family's mental health crisis.
Yes, I have a nephew who began to have symptoms where we began to get concerned about him, wondering what was going on with him because he began to say that he was having relationships with famous people. He was saying that the famous people were stealing his stuff from him. So he just began to act very, very different than he had before. And so we got very concerned and were just wondering what was going on with him. So we talked about it in our own little cliques, so we didn't talk about it openly. And we probably hindered his recovery because of that, because we didn't feel free to talk about it openly.
Is that because of fear?
I think it was because of fear and the stigma. His mom didn't want him labeled with having a mental illness. So she said, hey, he's just acting out. He's seeking attention. You know, that boy needs Jesus.
Well, prayer does work, but sometimes medical intervention really is required.
Absolutely. And we've since learned that. But in the meanwhile, because we didn't talk about it openly, I think that we hindered his progress where he could have gotten better a lot sooner. So what began to happen is everybody just talked about him behind closed doors, and they eventually, with his mom, called me and said, hey, we had an intense prayer session, or as she put it, an exorcism for him.
An exorcism?
And they tried to pray it out of him, but it did not end well. So he ended up going to jail.
How? Why?
At the end of the prayer session, apparently he got violent towards one of his siblings. And they had to call the police. But it was fortuitous because when he got arrested, it also got him assessed into treatment, diagnosed, and his road to recovery from the mental illness began.
Ooh, well, that's our goal here on My Healthy Mind, to prevent people from reaching that crisis point by talking about it, identifying the symptoms, and taking action well before anything like that occurs where people are going to jail or getting violent or going to the hospital.
Yes, and I think that by telling the stories, our guests, like me, can help other people heal.
Yes.
So you don't have to make the same mistakes.
Yes.
You don't have to keep it bottled up and inside, and then it explodes because of the pressure. And we can save lives and of the person who's going through it, as well as other people.
Yes, and the power of My Healthy Mind is also to show that you're not alone. Other families might be going through these same problems, but they don't know what to do, just like your family had no idea what to do. And thankfully, our guest is going to show us and tell us where we can find help, what resources are available, and he's going to prove that help is available and that treatment does work. So we'll talk with him right after this commercial break.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery. Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
people here actually care about you and your future and what you become after you graduate high school.
Loyola's mission is to turn out good young men.
Loyola is a place to help us grow.
A smaller setting and more one-on-one.
Give you that one-on-one attention that you don't normally get.
Making sure that the student is taken care of spiritually, educationally, and physically.
I focus more at this school than I did all my other schools.
By the time they get to about the 10th or 11th grade, they're basically bonded like brothers.
If you're looking for a brotherly love or someone to lean on or get in touch with and talk to personally, this school is the perfect place to go.
Welcome to Feel Phenomenal with Elizabeth. People always ask me how I have so much energy. Well, every morning I make a green drink, and I'm about to show you how to make one too. It starts with kale, a superfood, has tons of nutrients, antioxidants, fiber, and I buy it every Saturday at Eastern Market, where I stock up on all my fruits and vegetables. Cilantro is a very flavorful herb that detoxifies your body. Fresh lemon juice also purifies you, so I use plenty of that. Avocado adds this amazing creamy texture to the drink. I like spice, so I add a jalapeno pepper. Then you just add some spring water, screw on the lid, stick it on the NutriBullet. Voila! Look at how delicious that is. Oh, I can't wait to taste this. Oh my goodness, it's so fresh. Cheers to you enjoying your green drink every morning and feeling phenomenal.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. We're now joined with our special guest, Kevin Fischer from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Kevin, I know you have a very compelling story about how you got involved in NAMI and your passion and mission about mental illness today. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I became involved with NAMI in late 2010, shortly after losing my son Dominique to suicide when he was diagnosed 3 years prior as bipolar schizophrenic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
And when you got that diagnosis, what was going on in Dominique's life that made you get an assessment to get a diagnosis?
Well, interestingly, Dominique had exhibited no signs of mental illness to his mom or I growing up. He was away at college during his sophomore year and came home for Thanksgiving break. And his mom immediately noticed that he was not himself. He was rambling thoughts about taking over the world and very grandiose thoughts of himself. And for an immediate short period of time, we actually prayed that it was a substance abuse issue. And we later learned when we took him to the hospital to be evaluated for substance abuse that they determined that there were no drugs in his system, that he was actually experiencing a psychotic episode.
And you say we hoped it was substance abuse. You mean like the lesser of two evils?
Exactly. We understand in our society it's very easy to talk about substance abuse issues, but you don't really think about mental illness until you're faced with it.
Wow. And then what did you do?
First, we took him and had him diagnosed, and he was initially diagnosed as schizophrenic, and several months later, the diagnosis of bipolar was added. We immediately sought treatment, which was very difficult and frustrating because many of us, because we don't interface with mental health services on a daily basis as we would a normal medical doctor, we didn't know where to go. We didn't know who to talk to. We didn't know what resources were available to us. So it was a very frustrating period for us.
Well, here on My Healthy Mind, Kevin, it's to shatter the silence around these issues, and that silence leaves many people clueless about what to do when an emergency strikes. So how did you cope with that?
It was difficult. It was very difficult for his mom, for him, and for myself, because he didn't understand what was happening to him. He didn't understand that this is a medical problem, not a social weakness. But it was very difficult for him to talk about it.
And when you found out, did you guys find it easy to talk about? Because you were prepared not to talk about it unless it was substance abuse. When you finally got there, were you able to talk about it comfortably?
You know, his mom and I found it easy to talk about because we simply focused on our child was in trouble and in need, and our responsibility was always to do what was in his best interest. So we never really thought about the social stigma attached to mental illness. We later learned how difficult it is for people to talk about it.
So what ultimately happened to Dominique?
Unfortunately, we lost Dominique, June 27th of 2010. Dominique took his own life. And it was not only tragic, it was preventable. And that's really what led me to NAMI and what I do for a living.
Wow, that's so sad, Kevin, but we're so proud that you're here to share this, to help others. And next, after the commercial, will you share some tips for us identifying if a loved one is in distress?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
One more hour burns, so scared of his return that I can't sleep tonight in this hospital life.
We have 3 beautiful children, and everything you do or say to me, they take pictures with their minds, and I want to put a stop to that.
Sometimes I have thoughts of killing you. You know that?
Go ahead. You're doing me a favor.
Alex was the only one that knew the secrets.
Boy, why don't you leave that girl alone for you mess around and get her pregnant?
Why do you have so many boyfriends?
They all treat me nice.
When they ever treated you to anything? Only time they come around here is when they want one thing.
No! No!
You eat so damn much, why can't you choke on something? You're just a fat, disgusting excuse for a kid, and I ought to smack you!
I should have died instead. They were right.
No, you have. Life is worth living.
I have every type of abuse in there.
Yeah. Verbal, physical, sexual, mental.
You name it, it's in that room. You see, after years of abuse, you lose yourself.
Miss Vivica. Miss Vivica.
Me here, 'cause this time is the last time. I know that my eyes have seen too much. This nightmare is not fair, and I've had enough. You break me. Did you say you're sorry? You call this love, but this time your lies are not enough. This time.
I know you've been through some hell and high water, but I see a turnaround right now. You will be silent no more.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. Again, we're conversing with Kevin Fischer from National Alliance on Mental Illness, and you were in the middle of telling us some tips.
Warning signs for early onset mental illness. For younger people, it can be something as simple as changing their grades. One of the most common warning signs for anyone of any age is change in hygiene, change in sleeping and eating patterns, change in desire to participate with other people or in events that once brought them pleasure and they're now withdrawn. Those are some typical signs.
So if we notice that in our loved ones, what do we do?
You know, first I would say don't be afraid to get them evaluated. As I say, don't be afraid to go look. At worst case, you can rule it out.
And those signs that you mentioned are very familiar to me with my own nephew.
Right, right. And because of the silence, the shame, the fear, the embarrassment, that wasn't dealt with until there was a crisis.
Exactly.
And your story unfortunately resulted in a crisis as well. So we commend you, Kevin, for your hard work to prevent crises for other families.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So
what else is NAMI doing right now to help?
NAMI hosts several events throughout the year to promote awareness for mental illness. The first is our annual state conference, which will be held in Livonia, Michigan, May 14th and 15th. And information on that is available on our website at www.namimi.org. And we also host a walk annually. It will be held at Belle Isle this year. September 26th, 8 o'clock in the morning. And again, information for the walk is on the website. And the walk and the conference raise awareness and funds in support of people who are living with mental illness, because all of the services that NAMI provide to the public are at no charge.
Oh, that's wonderful. So is the conference open to the public?
The conference is open to the public. There is a fee to attend the conference. It's a 2-day conference, but there are scholarships available, so contact our office, or you can contact your local Department of Community Mental Health. There are several agencies that support and collaborate with us and offer scholarships.
And does NAMI collaborate with other agencies as far as treatment for mental illness?
Absolutely. NAMI collaborates with organizations like Team Mental Health. We collaborate with the local departments of community mental health. We're collaborating with churches and schools so we can, again, raise awareness and eliminate the stigma, which is the largest barrier to persons living with mental illness getting and seeking the treatment that they need.
And when you say stigma, what does that mean? What's a stigma?
Stigma is the negative connotation associated with, for example, many in our society think of mental illness as a weakness, when a mental illness is actually a medical problem. Just as cancer or high blood pressure, mental illness is an actual medical diagnosis.
What if the person, the loved one who's exhibiting these signs, is resistant to getting tested or evaluated?
And it happens often. I would say this: if your loved one was stricken with cancer, you would urge them to seek medical treatment. You have to support them, and what they need most is your love and support, and you need them to understand that you accept and that you're there to help them.
Thank you, Kevin. That is such powerful information that you shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to share.
You're welcome.
The people here actually care about you and your future and what you become after you graduate high school.
Loyola's mission is to turn out good young men.
Loyola is a place to help us grow.
A smaller setting and more one-on-one.
Give you that one-on-one attention that you don't normally get.
Making sure that the student is taken care of spiritually, educationally, and physically.
I focus more at this school than I did all my other schools.
By the time they get to about the 10th or 11th grade, they're basically bonded like brothers.
If you're looking for a brotherly love or someone to lean on or get in touch with and talk to personally, this school is the perfect place to go.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Mental Health Services has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan. Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Team is by far, from my estimation, a premier mental health service organization. We are addressing the basic needs and the mental health concerns of our consumers. We're able to provide 24-hour psychiatric care where needed.
Team Mental Health Services prides itself on going the extra mile for its members.
And it was towards the 6th court date. I finally stood up and said, I can handle this process the rest of the way. And it was all because of the motivation and encouragement I got from Team Mental Health staff.
Team Mental Health Services, because we care and you can.
Welcome back to My Healthy Mind. Now it's time for our Let's Talk About It segment, where we hear questions from our viewers. Michael, we have a question from Sally in Southgate, and she has a question. Is there therapy or counseling for people who've been bullied?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to say to you is, if you believe that the bullying is an emergency or that it is going to become violent, you want to call your local authorities or 911. Otherwise, you can reach out to an organization like Team Wellness Center, and you can get counseling and therapy to help you through bullying crises and surviving that trauma or anything else by dialing 313-396-5300. And I have a question that has come in on our Twitter that is similar. It says, basically, what if I'm the bully? Is there help for me to stop having this kind of an attitude or demeanor?
Wow. Well, first of all, congratulations for wanting to seek help as a bully. And secondly, I recommend counseling because there's an anger management issue there. And I would recommend going to your local community mental health website and finding the resources, which are also listed on myhealthymind.com, where you can connect with a good counselor who can help you work through these issues so you can stop bullying people. Michael, we have a question from our Facebook page from a woman named Wilma, and she wants to know what she can do about having thoughts of suicide.
Wow, the first thing you want to do is reach out to someone. Don't keep those thoughts to yourself. If you really believe that you're going to hurt yourself, call the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. You can also reach out to your community mental health providers like Team Wellness Center at 313-396-5300. Okay, we also have somebody asking us on Twitter what to do when I feel like I'm too embarrassed about my OCD. I believe I have it, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Is there any help for me?
I'm so glad you asked, because OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, is a common disorder that makes people feel like they're germophobic. They don't want to touch doorknobs. They're constantly washing their hands. They don't want to shake hands. They're counting obsessively. So I recommend that you go to our website, myhealthymind.com, where we list some resources where you can seek help, get counseling, and figure out what's the cause of this, and it has some tactics that you can learn to stop having these compulsive behaviors and feel better on a daily basis.
Great answer, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And we want to hear from you. Our motto here is let's talk about it. So reach out to us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on our website at myhealthymind.com. My Healthy Mind is here for you. We know that everything that we do starts and stops with our mind. All of our health starts with our mind, Elizabeth.
Yes, wellness begins in the mind.
Yes.
Yes, and we're here to help people have a healthy mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely. So join us next week on My Healthy Mind.